Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be looking at the Tim Holtz Sizzix release. So this one was a little bit of a surprise that came after the Vault series. And we've got some really cool layered embossing folders to check out. So we'll be creating a couple of cards and some backgrounds today with those. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today I was able to get in the latest installment of Tim Holtz and Sizzix, and we've got some lovely embossing folders from that last release. And this is the one that happened just after the Vault collection came out. So these are texture fades. Now they're not like a standard embossing folder, which is just really thin and gives you only one layer of impression. These are layered, and this is what makes these unique. They're not 3D, but layered. Let's open this one up and just take a look. This is Vault Lace. So there is a corresponding embossing folder. Now the embossing folders are definitely a lot thinner. I'll pull one out later for some comparison. All right, so if you look here, you can easily tell that this isn't just one flat layer. So right here, this is the base layer. You can see it's kind of the darkish layer on here. Then we're going to have some mid layers. The mid layers are that little step down from the raised layers. And this is going to give us a really cool effect. So the first one we looked at, this is Vault Lace. Then we have got another multi-level texture fade. And this one is Vault Gears. This is really cool. I love gears, and I missed out on the embossing folder, so I'm really excited that it's coming back in layers. I mean, just look at the detail. That is going to be so fun. I'm going to make a really good grungy background with this. Then we have got Vault Diamonds. This one is very pretty. Love the detail on that. Let's take a closer look. Yep. That's going to be really interesting to play with. It's going to make a great background. Whether you're just doing like basic paper, maybe sanding a little bit of it, or doing something more inky, I think this is going to look really cool. Ooh, now I want to do something like a distressed background and then like maybe some metallic over the top of like distress paint. Ooh, ideas are already starting to circulate, and that is why I get so excited about new releases or new to me products. It always sparks ideas of techniques that you've done already, but can give them new life. All right, this one is Vault Airmail. That's fun. Got a lot going on here. This one I'm not quite sure what to do with, but I think it could be really fun like for an art journal piece, or maybe to do some collage with it. I don't know. This one is really different, but still fun all the same. All right, and this one, I love this one. It's one of my favorite stencils. I use this stencil all the time. This is Vault Flourish. And we do have a 3D flourish, but it's a lot more ornate. This one I'd consider like a bit cleaner, and I think the design is really going to pop when we run this through. So, really fun. Can't wait to try out this one. All right, so those are the new folders that we have got from Sizzix and Tim Holtz. Now it's time to get in there and start making. Let's dive right in and start making some backgrounds. So I've already pre-embossed a few pieces so that we can start right away with creating. The first folder that we're going to be looking at is the Vault Airmail, and that is pretty neat. There's a lot going on here. So let's take a closer look at how this embosses out. You can see the layers on here. It's pretty cool. So I was thinking that we would do a little bit of spraying with distress spray stains and distress spray oxides. So let's go ahead. Adding some water, I'm using distress mixed media paper. For colors, we've got peacock feathers, gathered twigs, and for our oxide, we've got a dash of prize ribbon. So let's see how this looks. All right. And we'll give the oxide a really good shake. And a little bit of a spray. All right, we're going to dry and do a little bit of dripping with some water, and we'll kick that on fast forward and see how it turns out. Here is our finished background. We've dried, we've dripped, and we've got some lovely oxidization going on here, and that is looking pretty cool. But you know what? I do want to bring out the pattern a little bit more, and I'm thinking that we might want to pull in some distress crayon. And not just any distress crayon, I'm thinking maybe some of the pearlescent ones would work really well. Let's go in with a little bit of unraveled and see how that works. Just going to skim this over the top just so we're catching some of the highlights, and then I will blend that out. There we go. That is catching those upper layers really nicely. That is pretty cool. There we go. Ooh, it's really interesting. Just a little bit of crayon, and that really changed. Very neat. All right, finishing touches. I think I want a dash of frayed burlap spritz. Okay. That is great. Ooh, that's a really fun background now. Okay, so we'll set this one aside to finish drying, and we will move on to our next background. So today's mostly going to be just playing with different backgrounds and reviewing some techniques that can be used when using embossing folders. So for the next one, we are going to be looking at this lovely floral, and we'll be pulling in some Foundry wax. This is going to be just a very simple alteration. We're just going to brush some Foundry wax over the top, and then we're going to heat it up and watch the magic happen. So, side note, if you're using sterling, make sure you really give it a very good shake. It is the thickest Foundry wax, and it takes forever to really fully incorporate. You have to shake the heck out of this, and if you have one of those little electronic shakers, then this is one of those times that I actually recommend using it, because this one is really, really hard to get moving. But I can hear it. It's starting to move. It takes a little bit. For some reason, sterling just happens to be really, really thick. But we're going to put some of this on the media mat, and we're going to take a brush and just run that over the top. And then we get to heat it up and watch the magic. Okay, I think we shook this pretty well. Okay, that looks all right. Now let's brush that over the top very lightly and see what happens. Now, if this is too thick or starts drying on you really quickly, you can always add a dash of isopropyl, and that will give it a little bit more life and extension for open time. Because otherwise, this one tends to dry really, really quickly, and you have to work pretty fast to get this onto a substrate. So we're just taking that, brushing it right on, trying to hit all those high points on this embossing. All right, so far so good. Hitting those high points. There we go. Oh, I was right, it is drying fast. Okay. All right. And we're good. I'm just going to clean up this because, as you can tell, it dried ridiculously fast, and it's now it's a powder. I don't know, this one's an odd one, but it is worth it because the effects are gorgeous. All right, just clean up my work surface really quickly. So I'm going to grab the Sizzix embossing heat gun and we're going to melt this out, and then we'll take a closer look and see how this turned out. Here it is, and now you can see that lovely, lovely shine. It's like using a wax over the top, but this is Foundry wax, and it's really, really cool. So this is a really simple way to alter some embossed paper, and it gives a little bit of added shine and some visual interest. All right, we'll set that one aside. Now, this is one of my favorites. We are going to use the sanding disc this time. And we have some Ideology craft stock. You can already tell there's a bit of the craft stock showing through. We've got the color on top, and then we've got the lovely craft underneath. And we're just going to take our sanding disc and go over the top to give this a little bit of distress. And this is from the Stars Embossing folder. And this one, I think it's my absolute favorite of this particular release. It reminds me an awful lot of the pattern seen in The Hobbit from the Dwarves with Aragorn. So that automatically makes this a favorite. I love things that are very geometric. So just by sanding, we're able to take that little layer of color off and get a really cool reveal. There we go. And very simply, just with the sanding disc, you're able to get a really neat effect. And if you wanted to do something extra, like add some color over the top or some spritz, you can definitely do that. But I think just using the sanding disc to create this is pretty darn neat. All right, let's set that one aside. We're going to be using the exact same pattern because this also reminds me of armor. And we're going to do a little bit of grunging with some distress paint, black soot. And for this, well, there's two ways we could go about it. We could go in with a brush, or in this case, I'm going to just go in my fingers. You also could definitely use a sponge if you have a bit of sponge around, because we're going to be doing a bit of a wipe, and then we're going to be doing a bit of a clear. So let's go ahead and see how this is going to work out. So I'm just dripping a little bit of the black paint down, and I'm just going to go in with a finger and rub that in. Oh, I'm definitely going to need some more paint, but that's okay. Now, I love this particular technique. It's one Tim showed on one of the many lives. It's just a great way to grunge things up and to add more dimension to a embossed folder. Loving this already, and I haven't even wiped this up yet. That's going to look even better once we clear a little bit of the paint off. Okay. I'm trying to work quickly because I don't want this to completely dry on me. I need to still have some wet paint, so I'll be able to wipe it off the high points and leave the low points covered. All right. So just going in. There we go. That is pretty cool. So just wiping away a little bit of this, you can see that we've got quite a bit left on those low points, and I'm just trying to polish the higher points so we get that really cool distressed look. And distress paint is absolutely the best for this. There we go. Very, very cool. All right, I think I want just a teeny tiny bit of water just to try to clear a little bit more of the paint off, but not a lot. If you don't have a cloth, you could definitely go in with paper towel. And if you wipe off too much of the paint, you can always go back in and add it back. There we go. There, now I'm really happy with that. Check it out. those lower points have got the paint still in them, and then the high points are nice and shiny. So another fun and yet easy technique to play with. Next, we're going to be going in with the Flourishes folder, and we're going to open that up. And this is another favorite technique that Tim showed during one of the many lives. And there's two ways to go about this. You could go in with oxide on one side. That always leaves a great impression. Or you can actually go in with Distress Archival ink. And I decided that we're going to go the ink route today with the archival. So we're just going to take the ink pad and we're going to rub that all over the embossing folder because it's going to catch the high points on the folder. Well, actually, no, the lows. It's going to catch the lows here. So if you look at the folder, you're going to notice that one side is kind of bumpy and the other side is kind of smooth. We want to apply the ink to the smooth side. You could definitely do it in reverse. It would give an interesting effect, but I find going from this side gives us the most dramatic difference. Okay, so we've got our ink. Now we're going to take our paper. I'm going to put that right in here, and I'm going to go and run this through my die cutting machine. Then we'll come back and take a look at what has happened. All right, let's take a look at our results. And here we go. That is a lovely background. And I like that it didn't quite come out evenly. I like that we've got more of a distressed look going on here. So I just want to add one more thing to this background before we move on to our next one. I want just a little bit of shimmer. We're going to do that with some more spritz. I've got some hickory smoke right here. Okay, and we'll just add a little bit of spritz. There we go. Great. So we'll set this one off to the side to dry as well. And now just a quick little bit of desk cleanup. There we go. Wipe that down. All right. Now let's go ahead and grab our last folder. So the last one I saved is the gears, and the gears are very, very cool. I love gears. So what I want to do for the gears is to make something really grungy, and we're going to definitely be playing with some oxides here. Let's see. We definitely want some cracked pistachio and maybe some salvaged patina. That could be really good. Let's see. What all do we have? Yep. And we need some brown. Now let's start with those and see where we get. Oh, but first, I want to add some water. So we're going for rusty and something with a bit of a patina shine to it. All right. That's not bad. Ooh, I've already got quite the mess though. I'm just going to try to wipe that up a little bit. Okay, and I think I do want a little bit of shine added. So let's grab one of the spritz. I think I want a mustard seed or something goldenish. Well, I guess the frayed burlap would work. Let's go with that. It's the closest. Okay, that should work really well, and I can add more shine later with crayons, I think. All right, let's go ahead and put this in Best War. We're going to drip drop and maybe add a little bit more color as we go along. Here is our completed background, and check out the shine that we were able to get with the spritz. So the next thing we're going to do is run this through the embossing folder, and then we'll do a little bit more embellishment with some distress crayon and distress mica crayons as well. Let's take a look at how this came out. So we've got some interesting detail going on here, but I notice it doesn't pop that much yet. So we need to do a little bit of work with some distress crayon. For distress crayons, I'm going to be pulling in some black soot. We've got some antique bronze, and then I've got a mica crayon with some unraveled. Let's start. Do I want to go dark to light or light to dark? Normally I'd want to go light to dark, but I think we're going to go dark to light today because I want the grunge to show up. So we're just scribbling over the top, and then I'll blend this out, and then we will just layer up, I guess. Okay, so I am going to put a little bit of water off to the side. Just use that, dip my fingers, and then be able to really move this out. Ooh, it's looking great already. Alright, now we want to bring back in some shine. So let's take our bronze and start scribbling that down. Okay, and we'll just give that a little smudge. Interesting. And we'll finish that off with a dash of unraveled. I might need to try to bring back some of that green. So I might want to go in with a little bit of salvage patina, because I feel like we lost some of our background. But it's definitely getting nice and grungy. I like it. Cracked pistachio. No? Yep, salvage patina. Okay, and we'll just add a... Ooh. Yeah, that was right. Perfect. Okay, that background is done. Cool, we've got some shine, and then we've got all sorts of grungy goodness. So now that we've made all of these really fun backgrounds, we've got to at least make one card. Decided to go with the Air Mile background, and I did trim this down a little bit, about a 1/2 inch off of each side, because we're going to be matting that with some copper metallic ideology craft stock. So let's go ahead and layer this up. Got my trusty ATG tape here. Makes the layering so much easier. There we go. And just running that down. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and take this, line it up, and be able to stick this down. Not quite. Almost had it. Okay. Think we're good. All right. So we have our base, and now we're going to need a focal point of some sort. And I decided to go pull in one of the clear stamp sets. This is Perspective, and we've got that lovely butterfly. So just peel that up. Grab our butterfly, and I'll stamp with some black soot on some distressed white heavy stock. And then we'll color that in with some distressed watercolor pencils. I'm just trying to be as thorough as I can right now while I'm inking this up. let's stamp that down and then color. There we go, not bad. So we'll quickly put our stamp away. All right, and I'll just toss that right back into its little slip case. Great, now for some color. I am thinking I want a bright green and a yellow. We're going for a kind of a fantasy style butterfly. I'm not going for anything overly realistic. Oh, mowed lawn, that's what I want. That'll be really nice. There we go. Squeezed lemonade and mowed lawn. So let's go ahead, we'll color this in. That should be lovely. So once we're done coloring, I will definitely be cutting these out with some tonic recoil scissors. Then we'll be able to stick that on here. And I'm thinking a little bit of ideology for a little bit of collage in the background. We'll pull everything together. All right, we've got water brush. So I'll blend out the yellow first because that is our lightest color. And then we'll maneuver around to the green. There we go. That's looking good. All right, on to the green. Just a little bit of color, a little bit of blending, and that is working out really well. For quick coloring these days, I'm definitely gravitating more towards the watercolor pencils. They are really easy to use and give great results for coloring. All right, now let's grab our scissors and give this a quick trim. So we'll be back in just a moment after I... Here is our butterfly. That came out really well. Very happy with that. So I've got some pieces from Ideology and a few die cuts that I had in my stash, and we're going to make a little bit of a collaged background, and then we'll be able to place our butterfly on it. So we're just going to grab some collage medium. And let's start building. So the butterfly is going to be going here, and I want to just kind of build some circles around him. Okay, I've got some layers from Ideology. There we go. I think that blue one will go great in the middle. And I think we'll place that here. Let's see. That could go up here. And then I could have one more piece over here. But you know what? I'm going to switch that. There we go. All right. So far, so good. I do love collaging. It is lots of fun, and I love digging through all of those wonderful Ideology pieces and then building something to set a focal point on. Okay, and our last piece. Oh wait, did I glue the 4? No, I didn't. There we go. All right. Now for the butterfly, I want to just pop it up just a little bit. So we'll grab a few foam squares and give it a little bit of dimension. There we go. Not bad. All right. Very happy so far. Now let's just finish this off with a sentiment. And I recently restocked on my label stickers. I love these. They are perfect for quick, easy sentiments. And I want to use the word inspire. I'm going to put that right here, because I am definitely very inspired by the new Vault collection of embossing folders. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at what we have been up to today. Today has been all about Tim Holtz and embossing with Sizzix. So, put our card right here. We have gotten grungy with gears. We did some archival ink with a dash of spritz. We have done a bit of foam metal. We got some... Then we played with some Foundry wax to create this lovely shine on top of some Sizzix cardstock. And just check out the shine on that. That is so pretty on top of that lovely shade of lilac. After, we were able to get a little bit grungy with some sanding discs and the Ideology craftstock backgrounds, and we were able to sand to reveal the layer under the color. And I think that looks really, really cool. And then we finished off with our background with the Postal Service. And I am really happy with this one. We spritzed and we sprayed, we added in some pearlescent crayon. Then we were able to collage to give our beautiful butterfly a resting place. And then we finished it all off with a label sticker sentiment. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner. And until next time, happy crafting.